and welcome back to the Freelance Friday podcast. Today, I am chatting with one of my social media management accelerator students, Valeria. Valeria lives in Vancouver and she is a UGC creator or user generated content creator. And I really wanted to have this conversation, number one, because Valeria shares so many good things about pitching, what exactly UGC is, how to pivot to doing more content instead of just social. And secondly, because I hear from a lot of people who are on the fence about joining SMMA that maybe they don't want to do full service social media management, meaning that they write the content calendars, post the content, do the engagement, manage the inbox. A lot of people are looking for different ways to get involved in the social media world, if you will. And the SMMA course is really meant to expose you to lots of different opportunities within the world of social. So my students have went on to do anything from full service social media management, starting an agency, to becoming a UGC creator, becoming a graphic designer, becoming a content creator or influencer themselves. It really is meant to walk you through all of the essential things that you need to know, from strategizing content to creating it, doing copywriting, doing design, and analyzing it. So I hope you'll consider joining us. We have just about a week left for enrollments for this round of SMMA. And I truly think that now is a more important time than ever to get support in this field with so many changes that are going on. It is such a value add to have a community to go to when something confusing happens or you're not sure about something, as Valeria mentions in this interview. But I'll leave a link for that down below if you want to join us. And let's get into the interview with Valeria. I would love to hear about your life before SMMA. Like, how did you get even down that road of taking a social media course? How did you kind of like get into this world?
It feels like a lifetime ago, but yeah, I obviously came across your YouTube channel, um, binge watched a bunch of it, if I'm very honest with you, and be like, I must know more. I was in the middle or just the beginning of, I think, COVID, around like the COVID
Mhm.
times, if one can speak about them still. Before that, I was in aviation. I did it for about 12 years. I was an operations manager. I started like from the bottom up, like literally that Drake song started from the bottom, now we're here. Um, and I was pretty proud of the accomplishments I had made in that career. I was one of the few women in management, one of the few women of color in a space that is heavily male dominated, which is an interesting workplace to navigate.
Yeah.
No, I don't think a lot of people talk about that, but I feel like there's such a watchful eye on you to make any mistake, and you just got to be like extra perfect to get like half of the recognition. I just kind of stayed in it for a very long time up until it started to affect my health. Um,
Mhm.
and I love my colleagues. They were great. The people I got along with, there's like no hate or anything. But the environment itself is very fast paced, very high stress, very not good for your health in long
Yeah.
term. So everyone I saw beside me had like a stroke, a heart attack, something crazy happened to them, and they're like in their 50s,
Yeah.
and I'm like in a young 20s.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, I don't think I want this for the rest of my life. I started to deal with issues with PCOS. I found out that
Mhm.
I had PCOS afterwards because I went to the hospital about 3 times during like work shifts,
Yeah.
like several occasions. So I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And there's a lot of factors into it: diet, lifestyle, sleep.
Mhm.
Stress is one of them. When stress is like, it's just like the pressure on top of whatever ailment that you may have.
Yep.
Stress is just gonna mess your body up.
Yep.
Okay. That was kind of like the first trigger for me to be like, maybe I should start looking at something else. This was never my dream. Like my dream was to be a CEO of some company to make my parents proud. I come from
Mhm.
like an immigrant household, first generation, eldest daughter. We got a lot on our shoulders, as I've come
Yeah.
to realize. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna get ourselves out of like whatever poverty we may have encountered. My half I'm half Venezuelan, so I'm sure you've seen what's going on in the news.
Yeah.
So part Dominican, part Mexican. So it's like there's as representation, I feel like I have to make our people proud.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, it is like a lot of it's self stress induced. So
Yes.
I wanted a break. It happened in a way I didn't think it'll happen, but it started to open up the avenue to like let's explore other ways or other things.
Yeah.
And so marketing, I didn't ever think of marketing as what it is now.
Yeah.
Social media marketing didn't exist when I went to school. It wasn't a career choice that I could have chosen. It wasn't something I was encouraged to take,
Right.
because it was either lawyer, doctor, or something very prestigious, and just do that
Mhm.
and just make a lot of money. I've since obviously changed and done some self growth and self reflection, and actually looked into like what are things that I like. No one ever asked
Yeah.
me that question, and so I asked
Right.
myself. I got into painting during COVID for the entire year. I created a whole collection. I created an oracle deck. Um,
Cool.
Doing that passion project made me have to create content on social media to be able to sell it. And that's how I got into content creation truly, is through that. I was dating someone at the time who had their own business,
Mhm.
did not like anything social, that was not savvy in that, did not
Yep.
like websites. I learned how to create a website. I learned how to do all this by myself. And
Mhm.
so they didn't like it. So I'm like, oh, I'll take it upon myself to like, you be my test dummy.
Yep.
But I know there was like a method to do this properly. So I started to investigate, research YouTube, and came
Mhm.
across social media management. And I'm like, you know what? I think I could do this. I actually enjoy this. There are tangible results. I understand what KPI and metrics are because of my aviation background.
Right.
Like there's a goal here, but you're also creative. So you get to merge those two worlds.
I love that story. First of all, do you still sell your Oracle deck?
I
Is
have
that still
like a few of them. I've since take them off the like I had a website for them. I'm like, it's more like a
Yeah.
personal. I go to like little markets here and there and like
Oh,
I sell.
cool. Oh my gosh, that's so I think first of all, I think that is so important as people who work in a creative space to have little creative side projects to kind of keep that spark alive. So I love that you have done that. And I resonate so much with a lot of what you said. I mean, I grew up without a lot of money either, and I was very creative, but I feel like there's almost this resistance to leaning into the creativity because you're like, artists don't make money like creative people, unless you become like some huge celebrity artist or musician or something, like the working creatives, they don't make money, and I need to, like you said, like break this poverty cycle and go do something, more professional, if you will. So I kind of really ran from my creativity as well, and it came back and found me, after
I'll
working
find you.
in it does. It's like you can't escape who you are and what really lights you up. And I think what's cool is there are ways to be creative and clearly make a living, combine the business world and the creative world. So yeah, so you started looking into social media, pandemic era. Did you leave your like leave your job in aviation? Like you're not still working in that field, right?
No, I helped a few people with their social media and I started to create a portfolio
Mhm.
as someone recommended. I created a portfolio,
Yeah.
and really understanding like the nitty gritty of all this.
Yeah.
And with time, I realized that my forte, the things that I enjoy doing, was really the content creation piece.
Yep.
Like there's the social media calendar and creating the thing and
Yeah.
understanding how it fits into that. But what sparks me was that like you're really good at this thing.
Yeah.
And when I started getting that validation from other people saying, "Hey, you're really good at this thing. Maybe you should double down on that." I'm like, "Okay, well, how does that how would that work?" So
Yeah.
creating like pricing,
Yeah.
rate cards, reaching out, understanding customer pipelines. Um, every business has it and they do it differently.
Yep.
When I started, I had other side jobs whilst having my business, and I'm not sure if people talk about that as much, but
Yeah.
like it's weird. It's weird because you're
Mhm.
like you feel like you're like I felt like I'm living a double life
Mm.
where I go to this like job thing and then I come back and do my own thing. And I go to this job thing and I come back and do my own thing. It's I now see it as I take this what their structure and I'm going to see how I can implement this business structure to my business.
Yeah.
How they do it, cool. Maybe I'll take some of that or maybe I won't do that and
Yep.
I'll apply it to my business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's also the part that people don't see because, we all had that transition time. I had that transition time. I was working like a night shift. It's like a 2 to 10 p.m., basically a call center job. And then I would get out and I would work on my business for a couple hours, go to sleep, wake up, work on my business for a couple hours, and go back. Like we all have that. Most people don't just quit their job and then, oh, all of a sudden my business is earning 100% of my income. And I agree. It's like, it's weird that we don't talk about it because I think it makes us feel almost like, well, what's wrong with me? If I'm still working, two jobs, what's wrong with me if I'm not rolling in the dough yet, like immediately? So I think it's important we talk about that. And I think it's also important, like you said, that you take those experiences and bring them back to your business and vice versa. Like there's always something that you can learn from every experience. I mean, I'm always thinking back to I worked in retail throughout high school and college, and I feel like the stuff I learned there, I still use in my business about sales psychology and, merchandising and sales goals. So it's like no experience is necessarily better or worse than the other. Like every experience stays with you and can be applied to business. So I love that you did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how does that work? The content side. So you found kind of the area of social media that you loved. What did that look like? How did you actually start, selling just content? Because I think that's something that I hear from people a lot is they're like, I'm burnt out on the grind of social media management because it's like you've got to be scheduling content and always on your phone and the platforms are changing all the time. And so they would love to do more just like content packages, UGC type work. How did you start to pivot, your offerings to focus more on that?
Well, I didn't know that was a possibility. I thought you had to like have the whole package first of all.
Mhm.
And I can't remember where I discovered UGC. I'm sure it was on TikTok or Instagram somewhere.
Mhm.
And it's like basically it's just the videos. And I'm like, what? You can
Yeah.
just do that? Fantastic. Tell me more.
Yeah.
So I started doing again like research on what I needed to do because I have a portfolio of work. It's not like I haven't touched this at all.
Yeah.
I look back on how I started to now as like a big difference because I'm like, wow, I sucked before. Um,
Which
there's a
means you've had growth. It should be that
there's
way. Yes.
yeah, and it's I'm not hating on myself then for sure. It's just that like there was unconscious incompetence and then there's conscious incompetence and then you're like, oh, now we're good.
Yeah.
But it's like it takes a while to get there. Um, I asked questions. I connected with other creators. I think I had some that were actually local to my area, and I actually
Yeah.
went to reach out and met up with, and I'm like, okay, like by this time, I was also like pitching. So
Mhm.
people, I'm not sure if they talk about pitching, but there are platforms that you can go on. So UGC specifically, um, they're looking for creators. Like there's such an influx. You need a lot of content nowadays.
Mhm.
And so they're just like, we just need the content. We are looking for creators that have a good portfolio that like create in the style that we like that are aligned with our aesthetics or maybe our values, so
Mhm.
talking about your personal brand is important. We are different than influencers because was has nothing to do with our following. And
Right.
I try to like explain that to the people around me that are not in the field, but they're like, so you're an influencer? And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
no. So I just want to, say that one more time for the people in the
Yeah.
back. Um, but yeah, there are platforms that you can go on to kind of facilitate the back and forth between brands and the creators.
Mhm.
Either they have campaigns that were specifically looking for these things. Sometimes they have the creative briefs that you can take a look over and be like,
Mhm.
okay, I can do that. And you like apply. So there's still an application process.
Yep.
Pitching is a lot more, I want to say, labor intensive because you, one, have to see what brands are actually using UGC creators to think of the time of the year and what quarter. Maybe they have budget, maybe they don't, maybe they're about to prepare.
Mhm.
Do some research on what maybe they would like. I would always say, come with ideas.
Mhm.
Hey, love your brand, love this about it specifically, and also customize it. Don't just be like a copy paste situation.
Mhm. Yep.
Because people can like you can read that
Yeah.
as someone getting an email, so I'm sure it works the other way around. That you've actually put effort into like, I would love to create content. This is what I have. These are ideas that I have.
Yeah.
So you do showcase if you have, idea generation brain.
Yep.
Um, some people don't as much, and that's also okay. That's why there's like people that are creative strategists that create those briefs and they send them out to their creators, they manage them. Agencies that are
Mhm.
also intermediaries between brands, like larger brands and their creators. Um, so the way I got started was mainly pitching. Like
Mhm.
I pitching, which was exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. If you do it all the time,
Do you mean when you say pitching, do you mean like using these platforms or were you like cold pitching, like
I was cold
emailing?
pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I was
going
email.
to like Nike and being like, "Hey, I like your shoes. I want to create content for you," or
Yeah, I
essentially.
didn't start like with big companies,
Yeah.
like medium size, because like those types of company, for example, Nike, I'm sure they'll probably be working with an agency.
Yep.
I didn't know about agencies, but also looking through other creators
Hmm.
and seeing like what brands they're working with.
Yeah.
And if you look at them, usually like the medium sized companies
Hmm.
are pretty good to start off with because too small, they don't have the budget, the bandwidth, the anything. They're still
Yeah.
kind of like starting up. They can kind of loop back to you afterwards, like when they actually do have the budget. But usually, mid-sized to larger companies are probably like it's a safe bet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started cold pitching directly. Try to find emails, try to find contacts. Try you can through their social or directly on their website. I do use like an app to be able to like I guess scrub for email. I'm not sure what the term is, but to look for the
Yeah.
emails for the people that are like the people in marketing.
Yep.
Usually if you go to like partnerships or like influencer partnerships, like as their title, LinkedIn,
Yep.
also be active on LinkedIn. Like there's so many avenues to try to get to the goal, which is like
Hmm.
get a contract with a brand or like try to, yeah. Contracts are important. Please read them.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many different topics I can talk about, which I will be making content about.
Yeah.
But it is, yeah, it's a whole it's a business. It's a whole
Yeah.
thing.
Definitely. So you found out that UGC is really a thing. Because like I said, I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize that that is something that they can do. With that, are you mostly creating like video content, photos? Like, can you talk about what types of content brands are looking for nowadays?
Yeah, for sure. Video.
Hmm.
Video is the most, I guess, labor intensive. Photos are great. I'm not the best. Like I have friends that are photographers. They take beautiful pictures. I can take okay pictures, but I'm not selling. That's not my forte.
Yeah.
Um, People really like storytelling content. If you are able to also create a script, pitch
Hmm.
ideas. Aesthetics are great, but if it's like just pretty videos with no storytelling, it doesn't hit as hard. It doesn't
Hmm.
capture the audience attention. They don't feel like they relate. And the great thing about UGC, and that's like why it sells really well, is because the consumer sees you and identifies with you as the consumer. So they're like, oh, this could be me. I could be
Hmm.
using this product as well as it's been displayed before me in my routine or in my, day in the life or something like that. Like having a shot list will save you so much time. Like I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, and I think you bring up such a good point because I think I did like a video on UGC on my YouTube, so hopefully the audience is following along here. But for those who haven't seen that yet, like the difference between UGC and a commercial, so I think people think if they're gonna be paid by a brand to create content, it has to be like commercial level perfect. They're like, well, I don't have a full on video production studio and like all of this, intense tech and camera gear. And I think I know your answer to the question I'm going to ask you, but of course you want to have good quality stuff, right? But I think it should also be relatable. Like that is why people hire UGC creators is because it's kind of like the every woman content, the everyman type of content, not hey, I'm going to hire this celebrity endorsement. Like that's kind of a different type of content. So, what type of tech and gear are you using to create this content? Or what do
I've
you recommend for somebody to start out with? Like, do you need an expensive camera? What do you need to get started?
You just need your phone. Like
Yeah.
legit answers. And I'm sure you just need a phone, which is crazy. Like this
Hmm.
years ago would not be a possibility. Now it is. Like
Hmm.
the quality of our phones, first of all, is amazing. Like
Hmm.
a modern phone. Um, I when I started was like a later model. I didn't have like a lot to invest in. I've since invested into like lights and audio and
Yeah.
tripods, and there's all these other cool little angles you can get from all these things. Um, I would love to share that, but
Hmm.
all you really need is a phone
Yeah.
and some creativity. There came a point after, like, I was working full time with this company in their social media team, and they decided to go a different direction. So all of a sudden, I was like out of a job and
Nice.
just moved into a new apartment. And I had
Perfect.
just broken up with like, it was all the stuff happening at the same time. I
Yeah.
had nothing. I had to
Yeah.
focus on food and
Yeah.
shelter.
Yeah.
And you really sometimes make up excuses where, oh, I don't have the right office, or I don't have the right light, or I don't have
Yeah.
the right mic, or I don't have the right whatever. It's not the right time. I'm not in the mood. I don't know. No, okay.
Yeah.
I needed to eat.
Yep.
I needed to live.
Yeah.
So we make it work with the phone.
Mhm.
And how crazy, like this time last year, I was in such a funk. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna make this happen. We're gonna make this work. And we've made it work with just a phone. You literally just need a phone. I was in such a stressful state. I cannot like Latasha.
Yeah.
And I have no family here. Like there's no couch I can crash on. There's no family support. Like I
Yeah.
came out here partially because yes, it's beautiful, but I did move in with a partner and it didn't
Mhm.
end up working out. And I didn't have the foresight to like see what would happen if it didn't work out.
Right.
So I really had to fend for myself and I had to make this work. I obviously was looking for jobs to like make sure everything, but what ended up working was the business
Yeah.
and started to double down on that. And again, with just the phone until I had the stability to be able to invest in equipment. So that's a
Mhm.
very long-winded answer to say you just need a phone. You
Yep.
just got to make it work.
Yep.
Okay. When you are in struggle bus,
Yeah.
you figure out ways to make it work.
Absolutely. I know. That's what I always say with YouTube too. It's like start with what you have. Because also sometimes I think having more equipment or more opportunities, more possibilities, it actually makes things harder because now you have to make choices too. Not only
Yeah.
do you have to motivate yourself to film the video, but now you have to also be like, well, which lens am I using? Which, you know, setup am I going to use? No, just like do the one thing, sit in front of a cute background, whatever, and it doesn't even have to be fancy cute, just like not messy cute, and start there. And if you like it and, you can see it has some possibility, then you can slowly invest in stuff over time once you know you're going to be serious about it. And once you see that it's going to pay off for you. So that's awesome. Um, I want to ask you another question too, because the other thing, so I think people struggle to understand the difference between UGC content and like professional videography, commercial type content. But I also think they struggle to your point, understand the difference between influencer content. And I'm curious, what attracts you to creating UGC, or what would be the benefit for anybody looking to do UGC content over creating their own platform and, working with brands as an influencer, if you will?
That's a great question. The main difference, I mean, it looks really similar because obviously the creator is in the content for most of it. Most of it. There's some that you don't really need to be. Like there's the hand with the product and
Yeah.
doing something cute. There are some that are some faceless UGC content,
Yep.
which doesn't, not saying it doesn't sell, but it's not as intense. People stop when they see faces. They want
Yeah.
to connect with faces. That's why it's one of the things that makes it so great.
Yep.
Um, you do not need an audience to start with UGC. You need good quality content. So it emphasizes the fact of your actual content rather than
Hmm.
I'm not trying to hate on influencers, but like rather than a
Yeah.
popularity contest. Sometimes
Yep.
you've seen content from some influencers that like are really bad, just
Hmm.
really,
Yep.
really bad. But people like them already. They've built a
Yep.
personal brand. So they have this association with them. They have a connection with them. So it's
Yep.
not so much that the content is great, it's that they connect with this person and so said it.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's what they're pulling upon their access to their influence. That's what the brand is paying for, their access to your people.
Right.
And that shortcut from like, we don't want to build it from scratch. We'll just, leverage your influence
Hmm.
rather than UGC. It's really the emphasis is on your content, not who
Hmm.
you are. Like nobody knows who I am, where I came from. All you know is my face is on the screen and I can say a
Yeah.
line and I can edit it really well. And it, the script is done really well, whether it's my idea or like the content brief that was sent to me, I've executed on it.
Yeah.
um, Emphasis is on the content, not my influence. I hope that
Yeah.
answers the question. Not saying that like
Yeah.
don't build a personal brand. I think it's very
Yep.
helpful and you
Yep.
can leverage both, but starting off, you don't need to do
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. No, I think that is so helpful. And I think in so many ways also it's such a benefit because I hear from people all the time being like, Latasha, I don't want to be an influencer. I just want to do work and clock out for the day. I don't want like every move I make to be kind of looked at. I don't want to have to put my family online and, you know, all of these different things that come along with kind of being an internet personality,
Yeah.
which again can have good or bad. But I think doing UGC, it kind of makes it more of a job as opposed to like the influencer lifestyle, you know, where now this is your identity is, and I think about it, I see it all the time with brand partnerships. You know, if a brand does something weird, says something unhinged or, you know, whatever, does something weird, sometimes influencers will get like dragged for it. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you promote this brand. And I guess that could be possible in the UGC world too, but I think it's a lot less likely because it's seen as a job you are doing, and also maybe they don't know who you are. Whereas if you're some big YouTuber, they know who you are, they're going to find you, that, you know, you have this kind of responsibility to work with good brands. So there's a whole mess that you could get into in theory.
Yeah, I feel like influencers have a lot more, I guess, at risk in that sense because,
Mm-hmm.
like for what you just said, UGC, like I don't have to post my work on my
Yeah.
page. Like I don't even have to have well, I won't say that because that's like where I get inbounds as well. But like I don't have to post work, so people may not know I was even working with this brand unless like the ad pops up,
Yeah.
which is always really funny.
Yes.
Because I'm walking down the street and then someone's like, "I saw your face on my feed." I'm like, "That's odd," because
It's
like
amazing.
we're in the same city. I've had a few moments where I've had coworkers, like
Mm-hmm.
in my other jobs, like coworkers that come up. I'm like, "Hey, I saw your face or your voice or like something
Yep.
familiar popped up on my screen. Like, are you working with this like, company?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're a client of mine. I did work for them." They're
Yep.
like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Yeah.
So that's always really nice because like I feel like a
Yeah.
superstar sometimes, but I don't have to be
Yeah.
in the light all the time.
Yeah. For sure. That's awesome. Yeah, and that's how we're here because I saw one of your ads on my open Facebook and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I've been meaning to reach out to talk about this." So it is funny how that works. Oh, you know, one thing I wanted to talk to you about too is confidence.
Confidence, yes.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about confidence because I mean, you started out in this world of aviation. I can't imagine you were doing much on camera work in that job, or were you?
No, but I was in front of people, but
Yeah.
not like in front of a camera, which is a different setting.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
how did you get the confidence to be on camera? Like how, I mean, I don't know. I feel like that is such a scary thing for so many people, especially if they started out working in a completely unrelated job, you know, in a typical corporate job. They're like, "Oh my gosh, now I have to get on video." Um have you always been somebody who's been good on camera, or has that always been an interest of yours, or did you kind of have to like hype yourself up a little bit to film that first video?
That's a good question. Well, it's so much less scary to film in front of a camera than it is to talk to like a group of 1,000 people on like because I remember starting out, I did announcements and be like, the flight is delayed. And then like 500 eyeballs are like, what is she gonna say?
And they're
Why is
all
it
angry.
delayed? Can I yell
Yep.
at her? So way less intimidating with a
Hmm.
phone or with a
Yeah.
camera. And that's where my brain was. I'm like, this is way easier than talking to 500 people right now.
Yeah.
But it was still awkward. Like I look at the first videos I've ever made. I'm like, do I not know how to talk to a cat? It's just such a strange thing because there's no one actually here.
Yeah.
It's me, myself, and I
Yep.
and the camera. But, short answer, practice. Long answer, like look at your videos. Look at, and you get to see like your little mannerisms of like, I talk with my hands and I
Hmm.
move my head a lot. And then, some people find that entertaining or engaging and like we like the energy you come across, but like really, really being solid in like who you are. Cause I remember catching myself at the beginning stages of recording myself. Like I was trying to sound and be like someone else that I've
Yeah.
seen on video. And that's not me. No, that's not me. So,
Yep.
okay, because I would show it maybe to like a friend or like a close someone to like look at it. I'm like, does this is good? Do you? He's like, yeah, but I've noticed, So getting feedback,
Yeah.
constructive feedback, not people that are going to tear you down because they're jealous or they're insecure. People that are close to you that have your best interest at heart will give you genuine feedback that is constructive.
Yeah.
Uh, so those are few far between. If not, just like really study your videos, study what other people are doing. Um, yeah, I was so awkward. Like I have videos to this day to look at. I'm like, ugh, like
Yeah. Oh
what
yeah.
was that?
I
Yeah,
know.
And I think a lot of it is like I was really shaky in my self-confidence. Like I just didn't know who I was
Yeah.
back then. And it's weird. Maybe this is like too deep, but like you see that when people talk to you and how it comes across.
Yeah.
Um, just in general, like in person. So that
Yep.
also translate that on camera. Another reason why I tell people to like really focus on what you like doing. So you like talking about plants all day, every day. Talk about that because that energy will translate. It comes with
Mhm.
ease. This is a topic that you have so much knowledge upon. Go ham
Yeah.
because it's so much easier to talk about that than to not be confident, never film yourself,
Yeah.
and then talk about a topic you've never heard of before. You're like, so the square root of this
Mhm.
is your voice is going to be shaky. It's going to be all awkward.
Yeah.
Um, also, just embrace the awkward stage. It's just going to happen.
Yeah. I can't imagine that you've ever had an awkward stage though, because I swear you have such a cool, calm, like demeanor about you. And I say that having met you in person too. Like I look at you as somebody who has a very quiet confidence about you, you know? So,
Yeah. I
you know,
appreciate it so much.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like you're just very easy to talk to and you feel very sure of yourself and, confident, like not arrogant, but confident. And I think, yeah, it's probably one, just part of who you are, but also probably you have these years of like professional work experience that, to your point, having to talk to, a flight full of people, you develop a certain confidence and ability to communicate that I think, not everybody has. So I think it's a good fit for you for what
I
it's worth.
appreciate that so much.
Okay, I have one more kind of technical businessy question I want to ask you, which is you mentioned inbound leads coming in. Do you have a thought? Because I'm like old school and I'm always like email brands because that's professional. But are you getting like DMs from brands?
I
Is your
always
inbox going to be
email.
blowing up? Okay, okay, yeah.
Email. Oh, no, my inbox. I do get DMs.
Hmm.
There's just a lot more. I have like firewalls in my mind. Like I'm skeptical about everything and everyone. I don't want
Yeah,
to like fall into, like prey to any scams.
yeah.
And there's just a lot of that on socials. So,
Hmm.
and there's also, through the emails as well. But you just have to get really discerning about like what is a professional email?
Yeah,
What's their email saying? Is it very AI generated? Is it very like is my name even there?
right.
Like, is this a bot? Is this
Hi,
like someone
creator. Hi, dear. Those are always like little red flag for me.
yeah, no. Hi, like 15 emojis after hi dear. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, no, no. But you get good at discerning.
Hmm.
And yeah, so I always try to put everything through a professional email. Like I've
Hmm.
invested in like an email where it's like it's not a Gmail, it's an email that I've invested. It's a website that I've invested in.
Yeah.
If I can do that, I know a business can do that. And so I would rather like pay attention to that.
Hmm.
Sometimes emails through agencies. Some agencies I've just got to do a little bit more research because some of them I've never heard of.
Hmm.
Um, but I've, am skeptical when I open up emails from like certain things. I'm like, are you real? Are you a real
Yeah.
person?
Yeah.
If they want to set up a call with you, usually it's a pretty good indication. I've had inbounds with agencies that like want to put me on their roster.
Hmm.
Um, it's like, hey, we want to work with you as a creator. We see your work, we've seen your portfolio. Let's set up a time and let you know how our agency works with creators, what
Hmm.
our structure is, what rates and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And if I want to, for example, reach out to a brand, but I can't find their email anywhere, I'll usually reach out through their socials.
Hmm.
They're pretty responsive, which they're often, or even they have it on their bio, like for collaborations or PR, there's an email dedicated to working with that. Now, they have an email dedicated. They probably have a lot of creators that they're working with. So just
Hmm.
to be mindful of that kind of stuff.
Right.
Most likely there's like a lot of gifted situations.
Yeah.
So make it clear what you're
Hmm.
looking for because yeah, some people get stuck in
Yeah.
the gifted circle, the gifted loops. I don't know. They're not
Yeah.
confident enough to ask for payment,
Yeah.
but they're okay with just like I'm working with a brand and like put it on your portfolio. Cool. I'm okay with that if you're starting out.
Hmm.
Um, but there comes a point where you got to be brave enough to be like, hey, um, this is my work. You've reached out to me,
Hmm.
especially if they reach out to you. They already know they want to work with you. Like, no, this is
Hmm.
my rate.
Yeah.
and be willing to walk away if that's not something you're comfortable, specifically if they're asking like for a million and one things and your firstborn child and like perpetual rights and blah 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 blah. It's not a get rich quick scheme. Please do not fall for those things. No.
Yeah, for sure. And on the charging, the pricing and actually getting paid for things point, it's like as somebody who's worked in marketing for years, I know how much money they are making off of one single video. You
Yeah.
have to educate yourself on how it all works. You're not just selling a simple video that they're going to like watch at home like for themselves. No, they're going to put ad money behind it most likely and run it
Mhm.
as an ad on Facebook and Instagram or TikTok and all of these different platforms that is then going to make them hopefully like thousands and thousands of dollars. So you asking for a small cut of that is not, you have to understand the value that you're bringing to be able to charge the rates that you deserve. That's true for for any type of content, but I think specifically for this type of content, it's so important.
Yeah. There's that distinction of like organic and paid.
Yeah.
Organic, just a video, it's going to be on their feed, that's where it lives,
Hmm.
and that's it. We're done with it. Some people can take that organic content or even have a piece of content created specifically for an ad that has the structure of the direct response marketing. So you've got a hook,
Hmm.
a body, and a call to action. The call to action has got to either make you click, purchase, go somewhere
Yep.
to inspire action from like the audience. So usually people would put money behind it. So when I say people, I mean these companies or brands. And when I say money, is they're paying Meta
Hmm.
or these platforms for access to this specific audience. So females in this region from the
Hmm.
ages from X to X. So they're creating content for that specific audience. So because we know it's going to hit them and they're going to probably want to buy it. So most likely it's going to generate a return. Um, I have a base rate, for example, and when I ask if they're going to use it for ads,
Hmm.
like, yeah, well, this is for 3 months or for 6 months or something. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. It's 20% or 30% per month
Yep.
up until 6 months. And if you still use it afterwards, then it'll be this much.
Hmm.
Or if you want to renew, then we can renegotiate or we can talk about that at some point. But usually ads do fatigue. Like
Hmm. Yep.
um, people on the interwebs on
Hmm.
social have like made a big fuss about, don't give perpetual rights and blah blah blah. And I understand why people are saying that,
Yeah.
but very rarely do ads like stay on for like years
Ever.
on
Yeah.
end. Yeah, like after like a while, they're like, okay, like people are tired of this. It's not performing well
Yeah.
anymore. It did, but it's not anymore. We need something to spice it up, which is why people offer variations.
I'm guessing that's just kind of like different. I mean, I've done some UGC, and for me, that's been a couple of different. Like, I'll have, hey, promote this one product or service, and I'll do like two different scripts, and I'll change the setting for those. Is that an example of a variation?
Yeah, so there's the concept of like
Hmm.
this is what we're doing, and then like a variation of the hook would be like
Mm.
instead of me coming on screen, it'll be something crazy like water splashing on a phone. It's like, wow, it's very eye-catching. What's going to happen?
Yep.
To like get people to stop.
Yep.
So it's the same concept. It's just three different videos if you have three different hooks,
Yep.
or different calls to action. So it's just the just for A/B testing.
Yeah.
If
Cool.
you guys don't know what A/B testing is,
Yeah. Given
yeah.
all
So
the
just
marketing terms.
yes, but because you need to know. You need to
Yeah.
know. You gotta be in this if you wanna win this. I don't know if that
Yeah.
is a rhyme.
I like it. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
but to your point, and I think that's why it is important to educate yourself about marketing. Like, some people might not think, oh, I want to be a social media manager, or I want to be a graphic designer, or I want to be a videographer. But I know I personally, I've taken courses on all of those things, even though, what I do is a little mix of all of those things because you find little nuggets. You learn about copywriting, you learn about whatever, how it's going to be working in paid advertising. So educating yourself on like the full scope of how marketing works, I think only makes you better at the specific area that you focus in because you know how it works with all those other things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, copywriting is such a writing in general is such a good skill.
Yeah.
It's not my forte. I would totally outsource certain things, and I think that's another thing too, if you wanna eventually, like, people have VAs that are UGC creators. Like, you don't have to do everything yourself.
Yeah.
I definitely do everything myself, but I'm also creating like SOPs to onboard like an assistant that I have in mind
Yeah.
because like I can only do so much. I'm just one person. I also need rest. I don't
Yeah.
want to like give myself a heart attack
Yep.
for no reason.
Yeah.
Um,
For sure.
but those are, yeah, important skills. If you know someone that's really good at this thing,
Mhm.
I would utilize them if you can, if you have the budget, if you're at the place, if
Yeah.
you are able to relinquish control, which is something that I struggle with, but
Yeah.
you know.
For sure. And speaking of people, the last thing I wanted to ask you about was I know that you're a mastermind fan as well. Like you're big on networking and can you talk a little bit about that, about why you do that? Because I think especially when people are you're not like super new, but when you people are super new, I know when I was first starting out, I was like, oh, I don't have time for that. Like I gotta hustle and do my work, not necessarily waste time just talking to
Mhm,
people. So, can you
mhm.
talk to the people who are feeling that way and don't see the benefit of community or networking quite yet?
Oh my gosh, you are tapping into other people's lived experiences, and it's kind of almost like a shortcut to like, one, there are real people that you can speak to and ask questions about something if it's something that's related to your field that you probably would love to have known.
Yeah.
Like, it would have saved me so much time. Also, it's pretty validating when you share in a group and you have this struggle and you think you're the only one, and then someone else is like, "Oh yeah, when I started, I did that same thing and like totally messed it up, and then this is what I learned from it."
Yeah.
Instead of you going through that thing and messing up yourself,
Hmm.
homeboy over here just told you where the pitfalls were, what they did, and how they solved it.
Yep.
You're tapping into like a collective brain, if
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
can say it that way. Networking with intention, not
Yep.
just networking for the sake of networking, but networking with intention to be able to like better yourself in your field and like look for those specific groups,
Yep.
I think is super beneficial.
Totally. Yeah. I find it so helpful. I'm a part of different masterminds too. And it's just like, this is, especially coming from a corporate background. Yes, I wanted to be more independent and I am very like self-motivated and I like to work by myself, but it's also like it can get lonely when it's like your third day of not talking to any other human. It's
Gosh,
it's
yeah, yeah,
nice to
third
just
day.
and to talk to someone who speaks your language, because it's like you
Yeah,
as much as you might be able to like vent or celebrate with a partner or a family member, most of the time they don't know what the heck you're talking about. Like they're like, cool, like I don't know, your little video did well, whereas somebody who
yeah.
understands it's not just a little video, it gets taken to a different level. So I'm so glad that you have found a support system too. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much. You dropped so many amazing gems. Where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? And I don't know, learn more from you, hang out, learn about your services.
Um, you can find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I don't know what's going on with TikTok, so I'm not gonna say
We'll
that.
see. TBD.
So yeah, on Instagram, I'm my Clara Oceans. I do have like a business page I don't really post on, I'll be honest with you.
Same.
There's gonna be a rebrand happening, so whoever looks at it's like, yeah, it's still me. I'm pretty active on both Instagram and LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I even talk about LinkedIn, but I love it. It's a
Yeah,
great
me too.
place for creators to be as well.
Mhm.
Um, and they're also expanding a lot of their like features, so a
Yeah.
lot of videos happening there. So yes, you can find me there. I do have also an email for business inquiries, and I'm open to like co-working sessions and stuff like that because that's also been very beneficial. One-on-ones have also been great.
Cool.
So yeah.
Awesome. Oh, yeah, I'll be sure send me the links you want below and I'll be sure to link them underneath this episode. So thank you so much for bringing so much value. I think it's going to be really helpful for the audience.
No,
And
thank you for inviting me. Thank you
of
for chatting with
course,
me.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.